5 years ago today, Texas was dealing with one of the deadliest weather events in the state's history.
Yeah, 246 people died during that winter freeze of 2021. East Texas felt the effects as well. We lost life, power, folks lost water. Tonight, KLTV7's JD Connie takes us back and has a look at the lessons we learned.
It was like a cascade of events that happened over and over. Everybody's running around trying to do the best we can.
Tyler Utilities Director Kate Dietz remembers the big freeze of 2021.
And we went out there to flip the generator on, and the generator didn't work.
The state's electric grid failed. Millions lost power. In Tyler, the Lake Palestine water treatment plant had gone dark. Tyler temperatures hit -6 degrees, -5 in Longview. One treatment plant kept running, but pipes burst. Many East Texans lost water.
We're looking at those elevated storage tanks that we have all over town, those levels just dropping and dropping and dropping.
246 people died statewide. Since then, the state has poured billions into grid improvements. In a statement, ERCOT says they expect the grid to hold should we see a similar storm. New legislation also requires more work on the ground, including better tree maintenance around lines. It's something Encore's Tom Trimble discussed with us during a recent storm.
It starts warming up and that ice thaws off of those branches, and that branch comes back up into the line and causes an outage.
Ice locked down roadways for days, with over 6 inches of snow in some areas. Some drivers were left stranded on the highway.
It becomes kind of like a survival situation.
But 911 didn't go anywhere. Jimmy Zednick is the operations director at UT Health East Texas EMS.
Everybody that helped us through that, of what we are capable of doing, and this even went out to the community, reaching out to knowing that we're working around the clock.
Zednick says they've since modified their winter response plan and purchased all-wheel drive vehicles for supervisors. He says part of that plan is scheduling changes. In 2021, they had to pick up many EMTs who didn't have power or the means to get to work.
We had crews working pretty much around the clock.
It's a similar plan for Dietz, planning for longer shifts, along with replacing already old infrastructure.
Able to rest when they needed to, so we didn't have operators operating 24/7, a single operator doing that.
JD Conti, KLTV 7 News.
In Deep East Texas, Lufkin's low was 3 degrees, still too warm to beat the all-time low of -2 set in 1951.